Hello and welcome to another Manor Park Classics Podcast. This week, Pippa Laverty, a prominent figure in UK and international motorcycle sport. She was appointed as the first ever Autocycle Union Ambassador for Women. She's a member of the FIM Women's Commission, and she has also seen the industry from the perspective of having former World Superbike and MotoGP rider Eugene Laverty as her husband. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit. Pippa, thanks for coming today, and you've come up from London, busy with the ACU. Just start off, just tell us a bit about your connections with motorsport and in particular your work with the ACU.
So I fell into motorsport through my husband Eugene, and for years I travelled around with him as he did the World Superbikes and MotoGP. And then through that, I got to know the FIM and what they do and how they push safety and all of the different things that they do within the sport. So the FIM is the global federation that governs motorcycle sport globally. And that's what the ACU is affiliated to. Right. So the ACU is the official governing body for motorcycle sports in the UK. So they have to follow the FIM's guidelines on safety, sport, all of the different remits that fall under motorcycle sports and motorcycle safety as a whole. And that's why then working with the FIM in their Women's Commission, I got introduced to the off-road world, which was really exciting and quite cool. And then it was Tim Lightfoot and Matthew Weir, Matthew's the CEO of the ACU and Tim's the president. And they approached me about doing what I'm doing for the FIM, but for the ACU at national level. And to be completely honest with you, I hadn't done anything with the ACU before. They weren't as visible as they are now, let's say. It was quite a traditional federation in that they were very, just when you're involved in the sport, you don't really understand what your federations do for you. So it's been really nice to sort of see how many passionate people work within the ACU and how many new younger people are coming into it to make sure that motorcycle sport in the UK is as safe and as great as it can be, especially with external pressures at the moment with all sorts of stuff.
There's a lot of different agencies involved with motorsport, and particularly if you look at motorcycling, and there's different disciplines, different organisations, different routes into motorcycling as an activity, whether it's adventure motorcycling, motorsport, all of that. So your remit really is trying to encourage uniquely women in motorcycling with a kind of the take of off-road kind of activity.
Well, everything, because there's motorcycle sport is such a vast thing that you don't just have to be a rider in it. You can also be an official. Right. I'm really trying to push women into leadership roles. So in the ACU, they have multiple sporting commissions. It would be nice to see more female members on that. So it's really understanding how we educate people who are people who are already in the sport, how to be involved in what the governing body does for them, being the ACU, and the difference between other permanent bodies and other different unsanctioned events versus what the ACU do. Yeah. And then also try and encourage ones who are not involved and always wanted to get involved. How can they do that? So that would be my two main.
Because the first thought is always motorcycling anyway, as a general activity, is always a dangerous thing. And even though my dad was a kind of a cafe racer kind of guy in the 60s, my mum always used to say, "Oh, you're not going to be interested in motorcycles, are you? Because you'll just get killed," all this kind of stuff. But actually, this community, there's more to it than just the motorcyclist in the sport. There's actually the marshals and, like you said, the leadership and everything else. And is it viable for young people to get into that? And is it expensive? Are there routes already existing, or are you kind of looking at re-envisaging how all that system works of getting young women into the sport, or even just women in general? Because I suppose there's no age barrier.
No, there's definitely no age boundary. And the first thing with the younger demographic is try and pull them away from the screens, first and foremost, to do outdoor activity. But for me, it's trying to educate exactly, like, if I wanted to enter an event local to this area, where do I go to? Where do I get that information? And can I just turn up on the day and can I just do any role sort of thing? So it's really promoting the various roles And that's what I'm trying to do with the social media for the ACU currently, is promoting the vast majority of roles that there are and how to get into those roles, because it is free to go and volunteer at any of your local event. And I hadn't started volunteering until I started to work with the FIM, and I realised it's the most funnest thing to do. I used to be, not to sound arrogant, but I used to be like, oh, I'm not doing that unless I'm getting paid, you know, but volunteering is just the nicest thing because you have no pressure. You get to pick and choose what you do to a certain degree, and you get to be part of this community who are just passionate about what they're doing. So, for example, I was at the ACU S3 National Trial the weekend, the Wallace Cup at North Berkshire Club down in Oxfordshire. And to see the club volunteers, everyone's been there for years, and it's like a highlight of the year to go there and put on that trial. And that community is just so hard to replicate in any other sport because, while trials in general is a spectator sport, it's slow speed but technical, so it's fantastic to watch live. But the community around it and the support around it, and to now see, like, you had Alicia there, who's a world championship rider, and she's part of the international, not 6 days, the of Nations team for the trials, and she's there volunteering, helping her dad run this event. And to see that is just fantastic because it's just nice to be out in the outdoors in this really nice community. And like you said, motorcycle sport has a bad rap where people think, oh, it's dangerous, don't get on a motorcycle. But there's so many different disciplines you can get involved in that are not dangerous at all. I mean, there's a certain level of danger in anything that you do. But that's what ACU really pride themselves on, is being the advocates of safety and putting on good events and, you know, making sure they train up their trainers and everything like that. So that's why I like to give back to that whole motorcycling ecosystem, essentially.
And what do you think's prepared you for this route you've taken? Because you've not come from necessarily a motorcycling background initially, but what do you think you've kind of picked up in your own life journey to this point where you're able to encourage people this way?
I'd say the friendships, because I'm motivated by three key things, like most people are. Fun, first and foremost. I probably won't do anything unless I find it fun. Secondly is the friendships that you form. Usually you're going to turn up to something if you know more of your friends are going to be there. And then the third one is food, but I mean, that's just my personal preference.
It's socialising. It's a social community, isn't it?
Yeah.
And whole families of guests can get involved. And it's also, it seems to me that there's a lack of awareness of this. And that, I suppose, that's your role.
That's what we're really trying to promote, is like, come along to events, get involved. For me, the best equipped thing is probably not being shy to give something a go. Like, if you asked me 10 years ago, would you be running a trials event down in Devon? I would have said absolutely not. And here I am next weekend running a trials event, even running a women's speedway academy. Like, I had no background in speedway, yet I'm running something at world championship standard for a discipline I'd only really got introduced to that year. So as long as you build knowledge and people around you that have key roles and know what they're doing, anything's possible. And the main thing is just to have fun, like to turn up to events, see the same people, watch them compete, or see how they put on things. That's what I get a real thrill out of.
Yeah. And is there a cost barrier to getting involved with motorsport?
Not really. I would say, I mean, some places actually cover your costs for volunteering if you need to travel far. But if it's local, it's just turning up and it's free, and everyone's really grateful that you're there to lend a hand. And it's the only cost is essentially your time, but you're getting an absolute amazing day back in forging those friendships and having a good time and having a fun day out where you can just switch off from the real world, really, and just immerse yourself in the event.
Does the ACU, are they a point of contact? So can people can they just go to the ACU and get information about local clubs and local groups and local events and things that are happening?
That's what we're really trying to build. So ACU is a very traditional federation in that it hasn't traditionally invested in a commercial side of things. It's always focused on their sports and training up the trainers and everything like that. So in terms of communications, that's something that they're really trying to focus on
Some
now.
kind of network.
They have
structure.
It's just promoting it better. So they're redesigning their website currently, so it's easier to navigate. I'm helping out with all of the social media side of things. So we're hitting all of the different demographics, not just the older generation. And also just re-educating all of the clubs. Like, for example, to go to the Wallace Cup, I had to text Tim, the president, and be like, can you send me the what 3 word or where we're going? Because a lot of the time it's in the middle of a field that you can't find on Google Maps. And it's just trying to educate people in the industry that people outside of the industry don't automatically know this information. Like if you said to a trials rider, oh, I'm going to the Wallace Cup, they'll be able to pinpoint exactly on a map where that is because they just seem to know that knowledge. But if you're new in the sport and you want to go and spectate there, the information isn't as available as it should be. And it's just trying to educate the clubs how they can utilize social media to really sort of push that out and put key information on there so that people can find it easy to attend and turn up.
Where have we got to get to in terms of, particularly we mentioned barriers about expense, but in terms of the gender issue of actually sort of motorsport, in particular motorcycling and that community, women being part of that, what are the barriers we've still got to overcome?
Well, the gender gap, it's honestly... Again, it comes down to comfort at events. I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but majority of my conversations are about toilets because a lot of this is outdoors. And I'm sure you can appreciate with the rallies, you know, they heavily rely on volunteers and women want to volunteer. But if you ask me to volunteer and stand in a field where I can't even meet my basic human needs of being able to go to a nice, not even nice, just a toilet, is going to put off a lot of people, you know. So I'd say just sort of reevaluating how you can make sport more accessible for women, having changing areas for female participants if they wanted to get changed, and toilets for your volunteers and female spectators even. It's just, that's the basics that are completely overlooked.
I suppose we've done that, haven't we, through football and rugby over the last few decades especially. And we can do it across the board of any kind of sport. It needs to be that access. And it seems that particularly motorsport, we've kind of forgotten. You know, there are so many female icons in motorsport, but they always seem to be held up as unique in some way, which we don't want that. That's the worst thing. They're great to have those icons. I think we were talking about them earlier.
Yeah.
Michelle Mouton in rallying, and people like Pat Moss as well, but other people out there as well, of course. And we've got to change that mindset to some extent.
Yeah, and the media that surrounds it as well, because like there's... I know I'm chatting trials a lot, but it's probably fresh from the weekend and going into it.
It's your experience, isn't it? Yeah.
But like, for example, in the World Championship trials, there's more female participants than male, and yet the males seem to grab all the headlines. And that's something that we're really trying to work on in the ACU, is follow the FIM's portrayal guidelines, that if we're featuring on our social media a championship, make sure that we've included women in that media, because if she can see it, she can be it. So, you know, we've got girls in the stands trying to aspire to be it. And I think in Speedway, for example, you got Selena Libman, who came over and raced here. And that really created such a fantastic platform for female speedway riders to see a woman doing the sport, and it like gets them interested then.
Yeah. I'm also aware of the fact that people reporting on events, you know, probably from a different demographic, maybe 30-year-old male, kind of brought up with him in a male sort of motorsport environment. Again, generalising the opposite way here, but it's potentially could be that as well, and maybe those channels for how events get reported or commented on, and maybe just the culture as well, perhaps. Yeah,
I actually have an example from one championship where we'd introduced a new women's category, and the photographer is fantastic, and he meant no harm by it, but he said, okay, let's get the girls in for a group picture now. Jump up in the air and be happy that you're here. And I was like, are you going to do that with all the male participants? Like, ask them, or are you going to feature in your magazine them doing a really cool thing and looking cool, and then the girls jumping up? It's how, you know, these are female athletes. They're here doing the same as what the men are doing. So rather than having them looking good, and like jumping, how about have them as an action shot of them on their motorcycle? You know, it's that sort of...
Just coming to mind though, are females competing alongside males in the same classes, or they tend to be separate, or does it depend what discipline?
It depends what discipline. Yeah. Like sidecars, when we were just chatting to your colleague upstairs, we see a lot of female sidecar passengers now, which is fantastic, and drivers. You've got Marie Costello, she's doing sidecar driving and everything. Then circuit racing, you see Chloe Jones raced against the guys at the British Superbike level, and now she's stepped up into the World Championship. I believe that in a lot of disciplines with motorcycling, women can compete equally to the men if given the same opportunities at grassroots. Yeah. And that's the key part there. Whereas there is other disciplines like trials, for example, where I don't feel the best... Well, we have the best trials rider in the world in Emma Bristow. Could she do what Tony Bowe does? Probably not. But then majority of the male riders in Tony Bowe's category can't do what he's doing. Right. So it's a balancing act. And I think it's really important to evaluate what works in each discipline, because you don't want to create a glass ceiling. Like in motocross, I'd encourage girls to race against the boys at club level all the way up until teens, where boys tend to make a step, whereas the girls don't make that step because they haven't developed, and they tend to leave the sport because they used to go from being on podiums with the boys to all of a sudden back of the pack. So that's when we create the women's specific categories, so they stay engaged in the sport, but still in practice, training, and in club races, have them mixed in with the men, because it's only going to make them stronger. Yeah.
Last point, can you give me, where do you think where we're going to be in about 3 years' time, do you think? Just your thoughts on that.
3 years?
Yeah, based on all these things, all these goals perhaps you've got in your head, in about 3 years, or 3 to 5 years, you know, where do you think we're going to be, do you think? Are we going to see some of those improvements?
I definitely think so. I think now with the new leadership in the ACU, they've created this role for me, and they've really supported it, and also all of the sporting commissions are really supporting any initiative I bring to them, and it's not a single thing, it's really a teamwork, and men are very much our allies, because there's a lot of men in the leadership roles that make decisions on this. So for me, we're going to see a much brighter place for women in the sport. Already it's improved, I feel, quite fantastically within a year. We've got an official women's category in the British Trials Championship, which there was never before. We've got a full supported motocross British Championship in the ACU MXGP Women now, which had not been there before. Enduro is on the increase. We had previously 5 or 6 girls. Now we see amongst 10 to 12 girls competing. So we just need to make sure that they stay engaged, they feel supported within the industry, and the sky's the limit, really.
Well, Pippa, with you as their ambassador, then I'm sure we are going to get there somewhere, and in a positive way, and encourage that community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Please like, share, tag and follow us, or visit manorparkclassics.com for future auction details. You can also hear me on ITV4's Auto Mundial and Motorsport Mundial every Sunday morning. Take a look at our other episodes. Bye-bye for now.